Hi everyone, it's Lauren-Rae, and this is Skein 6 of the All Wound Up podcast. It is Sunday, May 27th. You can find me on Ravelry as mystrel, that way, it'll be down there, and on Instagram as lore.romero. It's been 4 weeks since I last uploaded a podcast. I had planned to podcast 2 weeks after the last one, like I usually do, but I realized that I had been pretty monogamously knitting on one project, and I didn't really have much of anything to talk about on a podcast because I hadn't bought anything, and I was knitting on one project. And not only was I knitting on just one project, I was knitting the stockinette section of a project. So really, it would have been, look, I have 4 more inches done than last time. Have a great 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks. So I decided to skip that, in the interest of not boring everyone to tears. So yeah, in the last 4 weeks, I met up with another Bronx knitter. Her name is Helen. We kept running into each other in Facebook groups, and we finally decided that we have so much in common, aside from knitting, that we should really just meet up and hang out. So we sat for a few hours in a Starbucks up here in the Bronx, and it was a lot of fun. So, hi Helen, if you're watching. Also in the last 4 weeks, last weekend was the Long Island Fleece and Fiber Fair. So if any of you went out to Riverhead for that event, it was freezing cold and raining, pouring rain, not just a mizzle, not just a drizzle, pouring rain on Saturday. And then it was hot and humid on Sunday. So no matter what the weather, you had a good choice of different conditions to come on out and check it out. If I saw you there, it was great to meet you, great to see you. And if I didn't, next year you should definitely check it out. It is a small festival, but when the weather is right, it's a good festival. So yeah, Long Island Fleece and Fiber Fair was last weekend, and I drove all the way out to Riverhead to work with Suzanne and Thaddeus in the Groovy Hues Fibers booth, so that was fun. And we were inside the barn instead of outside in a tent, which was really nice when it was cold and rainy, but not so nice when we were under the hot lights in the barn with no air conditioning on the second day. It was fine. Everything worked out. Lots of people were there. I think it was a pretty nice event. Like I said, though, it's better in more clement weather because so much of the festival is outside. But it was fun. So for the first time, I have some administrative stuff to talk about. Usually it's just, here I am on Ravelry, here I am on Instagram, yay! But this time I have some news. I started up a Ravelry group, so you can find us on Ravelry. You can find me on Ravelry as All Wound Up Podcast. Put that in the group search bar, and you should find it right away. There didn't seem to be any search issues. And then the reason that I made the Ravelry group is that Suzanne from Groovy Hues Fibers is hosting a summer shawl along. And I decided that I'm going to co-host it with her. I mean, I don't have that many subscribers, but those of you who are out there are really, you're really great. And I'm hoping that people will participate. And, it'll be a fun event. So it's going to be a summer shawl along. That means you can knit the shawl, you can crochet the shawl, you can weave the shawl. I don't care how you make it as long as you make it. The rules are that it's going to be starting on June 1st. There's going to be no whips allowed, so you have to cast on by the 1st or later. You can use any weight of yarn you want and any pattern you want. You just need to use at least 400 yards of whatever yarn you are choosing. So a lot of fingering weight shawls call for just one skein. Most of those are 400 yards. So pretty much any shawl is going to qualify. It's nice and simple. You have all summer to work on it. So if you decide this is going to be your project that you work on while you're sitting on the beach, cool. You'll probably have enough time to finish it. It's going to be 3-month Cowl. You can enter as many times as you'd like. To enter through me, what you need to do is you need to join the Ravelry group, subscribe to the podcast, and there will be 2 posts pertaining to the knit along, crochet along, make along in there. There'll be a chatter thread, and then later on, probably sometime in August or July, I'm going to post a finished object thread that you can only post your finished object in. So you'll have plenty of time to upload that and take care of it. I will pick the winner using a random number generator, and I will be sending out a pretty cool prize. To enter through Suzanne, through Groovy Hues, what you need to do is join her business group. So that's the grooviest of them all, Friends of Groovy Hues Fibers. The easiest way to find that is to find her business page, which is Groovy Hues Fibers, and then it's a linked group through there. So you have to join that, and then there's a subgroup because everything through Suzanne is done on Facebook. Her Ravelry group really slowed down, and so she decided to focus on Facebook because of the interaction and the fact that she already uses the platform so much. So you have to join her group, and then there will be instructions for, in the pinned post of her group, joining the knit along. For her, if you knit the shawl and finish it, or crochet the shawl and finish it, you get an entry. If you knit it with her yarn, she's giving a bonus entry. So you have 2 chances to win if you enter through her. 3 if you enter her, me, and use her yarn. So it'll be a pretty cool event, and it will be ongoing. So you will have all summer to knit that shawl. I know in the summer people like to focus on lighter weight things so that they're not getting weighed down under a blanket or a sweater. So that was the thought process behind us hosting it together. Okay. Finished objects. I am wearing one of them. This is the Lea Pullover, and it was designed by Marzena Kołaczek. I was test knitting this. It is a top-down raglan sweater, and it has a garter stitch panel that comes down to here. It's very stretchy, and lace in the middle of the garter stitch panel. I'm going to lean closer in a second. I have to move the microphone. Once you knit the top part, the garter and lace, in using a 2.5 needle, a US 2.5 needle, a 3mm needle. So it's very, very stretchy. And then you switch over at the midpoint of the bust to size 4s, or whatever you use to get gauge, 3.5mm size, US size 4 needles, and knit the body of the sweater in stockinette. It does have waist shaping, and it is a very comfortable sweater. It was designed to have 3/4 sleeves, which I did do, but I was running out of yarn. I had 6 skeins of Quince&Co Finch in the Peacoat colorway. That's my navy blue right here. But I really decided that it wasn't worth ordering a 7th for just a couple of yards, and Marzena had said that one of the modifications we were allowed to make in the test was body length and the other was sleeve length. So I decided, you know what, it is what it is. It's going to have sleeves just above the elbow with short ribbing. So that's what I did. It is not 100% finished because can't see it. Maybe it is finished because I didn't weave in my ends, but that's who I am as a person. I also didn't sew closed the armpit holes. So I'm going to move my microphone and shift so that you can see the sweater a little bit better. So this is the lace section, and you can see, I think, there we go, that it is a sort of botanical inspired pattern. It's got some leaves in there. It is a very simple lace pattern. The size that you're making depends how many times you're going to be knitting the lace. So I had to knit it a certain number of times. The next size up was an extra time. The next size down was 1 time less. But I did enjoy it. It was not a difficult lace to do. It's very short, but it does give a nice look to the yoke. So I made the sweater. Marzena designed it to be worn with skirts. So it is a little bit shorter because a lot of skirts have a high waistline, but it is very comfortable. I wore it to the second day of the Long Island Fleece and Fiber Fair, which may or may not have been a huge mistake because it was very hot on the second day. So I only wore it for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And then Jamie from Strings and More podcast came to Suzanne's booth, and I said, "Oh my goodness, Jamie, can you please take some pictures of me?" wearing this sweater so that I can change out of this sweater because it's beautiful, but it's 100% wool. So she took some pictures of me. I posted them on my Instagram and on my Ravelry project page, and they're out there. She did a great job, though, so thank you, Jamie, for helping me out. It is warm today as well, not quite 80 degrees, it's in the 60s, but I'm going to change out of my gorgeous sweater so that I don't sweatify it for the duration of a podcast. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Definitely a lot more comfortable in a cotton t-shirt than I was in the wool sweater. So, it had been about 6 weeks since I had any sort of finished object, and this week I have the Lea sweater, and I also have a cowl. This is the Coriolis Effect cowl by Lars-Rae. It's the Coriolis Effect cowl, and it is knit out of Lambstrings yarn. It's her Ewetopia Sport base in the Sexy Librarian colorway. So it's got lots of pinks and oranges and a little bit of brown in there. This is actually a gift. This is going to be going to my swap partner for a locally themed swap. So I chose a pattern by a local designer and a yarn by a local dyer. And I'm very happy with how this came out. I used size 6s for the body and size 4s for the ribbing. And it only took me 2 days to knit this cowl. This was an awesome pattern. You could probably knit it out of fingering weight, out of a heavier fingering, like an 80-20, that has that extra fluff to it. But it calls for sport weight. It was so fast, but not only was it fast, it was really meditative. I found that while I was knitting this, I was really able to focus on enjoying the knit. It was not a complicated pattern to keep track of. It was definitely a fun knit. The trick to this, the reason that it's so quick to knit, is that even though it looks like the columns are swaying at an angle, that's an optical illusion. That is what the Coriolis effect is. And there are only 2 rows after the ribbing. So the ribbing is 1x1 ribbing. But then there are only 2 pattern rows throughout. So look at that. That does not look like a 2-row pattern. But it knits like one. So it was definitely a fun, relaxing knit. After I had been so focused on finishing the Lea sweater, I really needed a short palette cleansing project, but I also needed to knit a nice gift. So that was this. I would highly recommend this pattern. It is a paid-for pattern, but it is a well-written pattern, and it is a pattern that I will definitely knit again. It's a great gift knit. I really enjoyed it. There was something else I wanted to say about it, but I can't quite remember what it was. Oh, right. Lars called for a very fancy cast-on, and I practiced it. It's supposed to be, I forget what it's called, but Channel Island cast-on. It's supposed to give little lumps and bumps. It's a 3-stranded cast-on, long-tail cast-on being a 2-stranded. This is 3-stranded. It's supposed to have little bumps, like almost like picots along the cast-on edge. But I was struggling with it. I got it, but I feel like I needed to practice it a lot before it was something that I would be able to use. So I just switched to a regular long tail. And then when I read the instructions for binding off, I realized that it said to bind off using just a regular bind off. It wasn't a Peacoat bind off. So I decided that I was okay with the fact that I had changed the cast on because now both edges match. So the Coriolis Effect is my other finished object. And it's going to be going right into my swap box and getting ready to send to my giftie, who doesn't know who she is. So, hi. I don't believe that she watches, which is why I'm showing it on here. But if she does watch, sorry you saw your present. You didn't know it was for you. Yeah, so Coriolis Effect Cowl. Definitely a repeat knit. I will definitely be knitting it again. Again, every time I podcast, I have uneven sleeves, and it drives me crazy. Right? Like this one looks really long and this one looks really short. I don't understand. I must be uneven. Okay. So, works in progress. I brought 3 of them in here. I do still have others, but I just brought in the 3 that I've mostly been touching. So the first one is in a medium drawstring bag by Otterly Adorable Knits. It's the Garden Gnome Bag. And again, the reason that I love this bag so much is that there are little girl garden gnomes in addition to the regular boy garden gnomes. I grew up on David the Gnome. There are girl gnomes. David the Gnome said so. So, they need to be on my project bag. In this bag is the Taumini Shawl. This was my birthday cast on. The Taumini Shawl by Francoise Danoy of Aroha Knits. And I thought I was at the end of a row, but evidently I wasn't. So I'm just going to go ahead and slip a few stitches over. I'll tell you what yarn I'm using and all of that while I do it. This is Heavenly and Groovin by Groovy Hues Fibers. It's a merino cashmere silk base, and it is absolutely, positively delicious. I am very much enjoying it. It's very soft. It has the slightest of slight halos, so it's very good for a project like this. It has a ton of drape. So much drape. I wouldn't use it for a very, very, very lacy project because I would be worried that the nice soft drape would cause some of the lace to just become kind of flumpy. Is that a word? Flumpy. When you went to wear it. But for this sort of simple project where it's stockinette and eyelets, I think it is ideal. It's going to hang so nicely when I wear it. So this yarn is a special yarn. It's Heavenly and Groovin by Groovy Hues Fibers, which is a base that she does stock. But this was her 30th birthday present to me. So last year for my birthday, she gave me my own special colorway for the milestone birthday, and this is it. So it has maroons and yellows in it, mustard yellow, and it is knitting up beautifully. I moved up my progress keeper because I had recorded the podcast already and didn't like it, how it came out, but I was way down here at the end of this last eyelet section the last time you saw it. So it's about 3.5 inches bigger than it was last time. The reason I didn't post that podcast, I really felt like I sounded like a complete and total rambling nut job, so I decided it wasn't worth posting. This is on my size 6 signature stiletto needles. They are engraved. I decided if I was going to get a pair of these needles, I should really pay the little bit extra to have them engraved. And the progress keeper that's on here, which will stay in this same place, I think, for next time. The progress keeper that is on here is by Pitter Patter Polymer, and it is the Turtle Sandbox. So that's what I've got. So this I had cast on my birthday, and I had a world of struggles. You can hear about them in an earlier podcast when I first started it. But it's moving along nicely now. I think I'm almost up to the point where I'm gonna increase the size of the cables. I do have for my 6s a second cable assembly, so I have the 47-inch cable, and I'm going to use that when this gets a little bit longer so that I can really spread it out and enjoy knitting it. But that's the Taumini Shawl by Francoise Danoy of Aroha Knits, and it is a lot of fun to knit. It is a relatively simple project, so this is my on-the-go project right now. It's starting to get a little bit big though, so I may cast on a sock or something, because the purse that I use in the summer does not really have room for this project bag, even though it's only a medium. So I'm probably going to cast on a sock or a pair of mitts or a hat or something that's not going to get any bigger than this, so that I can carry it around easily in my purse, because I'm pretty much always in possession of a knitting project. If I'm in line somewhere, I knit. If I'm at a restaurant, I knit. Sorry, it's rude. Don't care. Yeah, that's who I am. Why are my sleeves so uneven? Sorry. Anyway, my second project is in a jumbo zipper bag by You So and So, and it's her Dancing Whales bag, which is very fitting for this project because it was a collaboration with Shanna of Lambstrings. and all of the yarn used in this shawl is by Shanna of Lambstrings. So this is my Find Your Fade shawl, and the last time we spoke, my god, another one that I'm in the middle of the row. When I recorded the bad podcast that I didn't upload, I finished every single row on every single project so that you could really see what was going on. This one I don't know that I'm going to be able to move it around because of the number of stitches, but I'm going to show you. So my Find Your Fade is done entirely out of Lambstrings yarn in her Tra-La-La sock base. So that is her 75/25 merino nylon, and I am in the 4th color. So that means that I'm in the section where the number of stitches on the shawl finally stays the same. I stop increasing at this point, and this is where the spine starts to move off center. So I've made quite a bit of progress since I showed it one podcast ago, since I showed it last podcast. I think I showed it. I may have just talked about it. But I picked it up about 2 weeks ago, and I finished a lace section, did a fade, and I'm working on the solid section 4 colorway. So this is, as I said, Lambstrings Tra-La-La sock. It is on size 4 signatures. These were actually the first pair that I bought. I bought them at the Long Island Yarn Crawl, not this year, but the year before. They're size 4s. I don't believe that these are the stiletto points. They seem a little bit different than the others. These I only have the 32-inch cord assembly, so I can't make the cord any longer or shorter on these. They are the interchangeables, but how signature needles work is you buy the tips in whatever size it is you're getting, and you get 1 cable with them. And then you get, if you want more cables, you have to buy them. So if I want a size 4 cable, if I want cables rather for the 4s, I have to buy a size 4 cable. If I want cables for the 6s, I have to buy a size 6 cable. It sounds a little bit like a pain in the butt, but I bought the 2 sizes that I use the most for shawls, and I have not found it to be a big trial, except for the fact that I haven't been able to use these in a year. But if I really wanted to use them, I could have gotten another cable. And these come with little caps, so you can take the needle tips off and move them around. Because you only have 2 hands, unless you have more than 2 hands, in which case more power to you. So you can really only knit on one project at a time anyway. It's fine. But anyway, it has a progress keeper on it, as I said, and that progress keeper is a star, polymer clay star by Pitter Patter Polymer. Oh, there it is. It's got a cute little face. And then it also has a stitch marker to mark the center spine, and that is by, Lavender Hill Knits. It was the very first set of stitch markers that I got, and they are still a favorite. They were a gift from somebody that I don't, from an ex-boyfriend actually, but yeah, I still use them. Anyway, so Lambstrings Tra-La-La sock in Venery. It's my first color. I also made 2 hats out of this color, so you really do get a lot. You could use a mini, I've heard people say. Yellow Moss, Corazon, and then Monarch is the orange. So I have my first 4 colors on here. It's then going to fade into the 5th color, which is Siafu. I'll try and get that first green in here. There we go, Siafu. And then it will go into the colorway I used for the Coriolis Effect Cowl, which is Sexy Librarian. This is hard to do. Andrea Mowry, I know you're not watching, but I gotta make like a fade holding sling for podcasters to show off their fades. So anyway, it'll be these 3 colors next. You can see that they do fade together. I had wanted to have the Rosario next to the Siafu, but someone pointed out that it is very close, so I'm going to go this way. I'm kind of alternating color values anyway. I'm going dark, light, so I think it'll work. But yeah, So those are my 7 colors. I'm enjoying this. When I put it down, I really had felt like I messed up my colors. I was very upset with the project. I just felt kind of blah about it. It sat for almost a whole year. But now that I've been working on it again, it does knit up very quickly if you actually sit down and knit on it. The reason I think that a lot of us feel like it takes forever is that we do put it down. Something frustrates us with it, and because it's so long, it does come out about 9 feet long. It gets frustrating, and that's where it starts to feel like a long knit. Not because it really is a long knit. It's actually a very fast, fun knit, but yeah. Okay, my third whip that I brought in is in a large drawstring bag from Otterly Adorable Knits, so I'll hold up the medium one next to it so you can see the size difference. Okay. Large and medium. Oops. So there's a pretty substantial difference. They do both have very deep gussets though, so they are both very spacious. This is my Otterly Adorable Knits large drawstring bag. It has dragons on it. Her shop updates, if you were interested in buying a bag from Otterly Adorable Knits, her shop always has stuff in it, but her updates are on Fridays, and they are at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you wanted to get something in particular from her, she posts hints about what's going to be in her update on her Instagram, and her updates are at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Fridays every week. So check her out if you want to buy a bag. They are very good quality. Okay, so this project is knit out of Borgo de Pazzi on their lace, and it is colorway number 105. It's kind of like a wine color. It is a very, very soft lace weight yarn. It does have a halo, even though it is 100% extra fine merino, but that's okay. So this is my featherweight, and I've shown it, I believe, before with my twisted stitches. And this is how much of it I have done. I spoke to Shanna from Lambstrings, and this is eligible for me to enter into their cardigan along, the Strings and More cardigan along. So I will be entering this in if I finish it. She and I were discussing how I was going to make a design element and change from the twisted stockinette into a regular stockinette, but she thinks that it wouldn't look good right up next to each other, and I had been worried about that too. So she suggested doing a line of garter stitches so that there's kind of a ridge dividing them. I was thinking maybe I'd just keep going in garter. Knit every row. Pretty simple. I have to decide though, because the drape from the stockinette is really nice, and the springiness, I'm full of fun words today. The springiness of garter would make it a totally different sweater. But I will consider what I'm going to do. I think I may go with her suggestion of a line of garter and transition from there into the regular, ordinary stockinette. That is on Hiya Sharp size 6 needles. I had originally started it on wooden Knitter's Pride Dreams, which have been my go-to needle for years, until very recently when I seem to be switching to Hues all of a sudden. But yeah, they are a favorite. Knitter's Pride were a favorite needle, but because I was twisting all my stitches and because it's such a fine weight yarn, I really needed a pointy tip. So I got my Hiya Sharps, and they are as sharp as the name says they will be. Again, I'm crooked. Okay, so those were my 3 whips that I did work on in the last few weeks. I do still have the 003 camisole by Veronica Job, and I am still working on it. I did 1 or 2 rows, so it wasn't worth bringing it in here. It is the Debbie Bliss Pure Silk in celery. It has beautiful drape. I want to talk about it more in depth next time with my gauge issues and everything, but the reason I haven't been working on it is I needed to put it on metal needles. The bamboo that I had it on was not working out for me, so I just needed to switch it over. Hopefully I'll be working on it because I want to enter that into the Girls in the Yarn Cafe Those Summer Knits knit along. So I want to finish that as well. That will be down at the bottom along with the information about the cardigan along for Strings and More, if you were interested in doing those. Okay, acquisitions. First of all, my friends are not acquisitions. I got them in college. They just moved up here to my apartment to stand watch over all my acrylic stash, which is over there, except for some fingering weight acrylic, which is up there. But I decided that I wanted them here so that they could watch out for my acrylic yarn. I was an environmental studies minor, and I took a course on history of the environmentalism in the U.S., or U.S. environmental history. That's what it was. And one of the books that we read, it was a monograph. It had a whole chapter on lawn flamingos and how Americans' view of nature is different than other people's view of nature because we include subconsciously artificial things like lawn flamingos and the Discovery Channel store in our view of nature. Kind of cool, but they're just hanging out here, watching out for the acrylic yarn and blocking the sock blanks. Anyway, so I was at the Long Island Fleece and Fiber Fair last week, and yarn diet, schmarn diet. Yep. So of course I shopped, and I got paid in yarn for working with Groovy Hues. So I have quite a few acquisitions. I had, last time I recorded this, only shown the stuff that I bought, and I was going to reserve the yarn pay for the next podcast, but since I'm re-recording it, I decided I'm just going to show it all together. So, from Lambstrings, I bought 6 skeins of yarn, because why not? And, well, I know, lots of reasons why not. So many reasons why not. But I did it anyway because I love her yarn. And of course, I bought it all in the same base that I'm doing my Find Your Fade in. So this is all Tra-La-La sock yarn by Lambstrings. And I do have projects in mind for all of this yarn. So I bought another skein of Monarch. That's the color that I'm working with right now in my fade. And the reason I had to have this skein was that the gray that's in it, there's gray in the other one, has a lot of blue in this one, and I really thought it was cool. So it's really only in the one patch in the skein. I just really, really loved it, so I had to have it. And then to go with it, because I'm trying to buy yarn for specific projects now, rather than just buying yarn because it's pretty, I got also on Tra-La-La sock, Relax, It's Just Magic. So they're going to be striped. There we go. They're going to be striped, and they're going to be a Lavetta shawl by Amba O'Brien. So most of the shawl is going to be this beautiful dark blue loveliness that is Relax, It's Just there we go, if I block my face with the yarn. Relax, It's Just Magic, so it's blues and purples, and then the orange Monarch will be striped in. And it's going to be quite pretty, I think. My mother may take it, though. I told her, I'm making a shawl, it's going to have these beautiful blues in it. And she was like, that sounds nice. I was like, it does sound nice, doesn't it? And she was like, that sounds really nice. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll be giving up that shawl. Well, so those 3. And then I loved knitting that sweater, the Lea sweater that I had on so much that I had to make another one. And I loved all the light colors that people made theirs in, so I'm going to try it in this. If the lace isn't working out, I may backtrack and do something different. But this is Wrath, also on Tra-La-La sock. It has speckles of browns and blues and greens and purples or burgundies. And I think it's going to make a nice sweater. I feel like the jewel tones that are speckled in this do something for my face, so having them up by my face will be nice. I had another yarn in mind from Shanna, but I asked her for her honest opinion because I said I'm going to buy 3 skeins no matter what, so she wasn't worried about losing me as a customer. So is this yarn good for me? It had a beautiful blush pink as the majority of the colorway, and she was like, no. Just like Kim from Barnyard Knits, when I asked her for help picking a colorway, was like, no. It's a color that I love, but it is not a color that loves me. So, oh well. This is beautiful, and this is going to make a beautiful sweater. It even matches my nails. I'll have to get this color again when I finish this sweater. But that's going to be another Lea. So that was 6 skeins of Tra-La-La sock from Shanna of Lambstrings, and I love it. I like a lot of her yarn, but I seem to keep going back to that base again and again. Anyway, my next purchase at the festival, the fair actually, was from Shirsty Cat. That's Kelly, and I bought 2 skeins of her just sock. So that's another 75-25 blend. So I purchased Oubliette, and I want to move the ball band so you can really see it. I got Oubliette, which is very, very pretty, and not like a lot of yarns that I've bought lately. Beautiful. And it's definitely going to become something. I haven't decided what yet, but I had to have this color. I was walking through her booth in the pouring rain, and I said, I need this. So I ended up with that. And then the other color that I got from her is All That Jazz, a la Chicago. So I saw a sample. I was getting up there to pay for the Oubliette. I don't know how you pronounce it. The colorway will be down there. I saw a sample that she had that was knitted out of this yarn. And I said, I need whatever that color is. I need it. So that's how I ended up with All That Jazz. So those are all of my yarn purchases from Long Island Fleece and Fiber Fair. I also bought the delicious Halleckville Museum molasses cookies that I get every year because my mom loves them. They are so good. I don't like molasses and I don't like ginger cookies, but I love the molasses spice cookies from the Halleckville Museum Farm. So I got those. And then I got, the reason that I'm sitting up higher, that you can see my horseshoe up there, I bought a rock. Now, I'm going to move. Not just any rock. This is a wool rock. This is by, hang on, I have a card. This is by Joy Woolworks. Joy Woolworks. Joy is based out of Glens Falls, but she really only sells at festivals and street fairs. She does have a Facebook page, which I'll be linking below, and she says on her About Me on there that if you really want to purchase from her and you're not able to go to one of her fairs, you can contact her and she'll get in touch. But this is a rock made out of felted wool, and it is merino. So this is a merino felted rock. This is size large. A medium would be the smallest size I would be comfortable sitting on. She goes up to extra large, which are amazing and like couch cushion sized. But I ended up with a large. It is very comfortable to sit on. It's kind of like sitting on a yoga ball. And I got this particular coloring because in 2014 when I went to visit my dear friend Liz, who designed my new logo that you'll see in the intro and at the end of the podcast, I picked up a rock like this along the beach on the Pacific Ocean. And I love it. I have it sitting on my dresser in the bedroom. And, so I decided I would buy a felted rock cushion to match that rock from the Pacific Ocean. And it is very comfortable to sit on. Like I said, it's like a yoga ball. So when you sit on it, your back kind of aligns and you sit upright, which is, I have horrible posture. You've probably noticed I'm always curved forward. My mom said I used to look like a turtle when I was out at the bus stop in junior high and high school, that I'd stand there and look like a turtle with my neck stuck out and my shoulders all rounded. So this is very useful because it makes me sit up straight. So yeah, I bought a rock. They are not cheap rocks. They are pretty expensive, but I'm hoping that it will make me not look like a turtle when I'm sitting here podcasting, or when I'm sitting around knitting. I'll probably use it for more than just podcasting. But yeah, It's my rock, made out of merino. So there's that. I'm not going to climb back up on it to finish out the podcast because I just have a few more acquisitions to talk about. And then I'll be done. So, I chose 7 skeins from Suzanne for my yarn pay. I do have an 8th one potentially coming. You'll see why in a minute. So I got 3 skeins of Chubby and Groovin, which is her super, super soft, super, super squishy, bulky weight yarn. And I chose President of the Facebook Drama Club. Isn't it enough that I ruined a pony making a gift for you? And the mango passion fruit hibiscus tea that I've used in the past on fingering on her cuddly and Groovin sock base. So I chose these 3, and at least 2 out of the 3 are going to be gift knits. I may keep the 3rd for myself, but I have 2 younger cousins who are still little girls, and I may be making them hats out of these. The one little girl, Raina, she's my first cousin Jeff's daughter. She's 9, I think, and when she was 3 or 4, I knit her a scarf, one of those ruffle scarves, out of the sachet yarn. I think I have a skein of it if you don't know what it is. No, it's too far, I can't grab it. But it's the built-in ruffle, and you just knit along the one edge and it spirals on itself. I knit her a purple ruffle scarf, and, you know, she was very excited to get it, but I figured that would be it. You know, she was a little kid. Come to find out, even though she's 9 and she was 3 then, that is still her favorite scarf, and she still has it, and she still wears it all the time. So that little girl is totally knit-worthy, and she totally deserves a hat made out of indie-dyed yarn. Right? If you're going to keep the ruffle scarf that I made just, you know, in an afternoon for 6 years as a kid, when kids lose things, totally knit-worthy, this child. So she's going to get at least a hat for her Christmas gift this year. The second thing that I chose was Silky and Groovin in the shawl length skein. So this is 600 yards of merino and silk. I have knit with this before. I made a sample for Suzanne. It was in a different colorway, but the same base. This is, I have a mine like a steel trap. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but it's beautiful, and I needed it. And it was part of my payment for being outside in the rain for a weekend. These are more expensive skeins. You can see the prices on there. They are $49 skeins, but they are a skein and a half. So it's a pretty good price. And it is beautiful yarn with gorgeous stitch definition and a very high twist. So wanted this. I may stripe it with something and make a ginormous shawl, but I haven't decided. So there's that. Then the other colorway I chose Cuddly and Groovin sock, which is was her standard sock base, but now she has twisted and Groovin as well. Here it is. I have 3 skeins of it. This is a little bark, a little bite. It was supposed to be a tan, but something happened in the dye pots. She wrote it down, so hopefully she'll be able to make this again. If not, it's all mine, Thad. And this is going to become my Zweig sweater. I had been resistant to making the Zweig because I couldn't think of a color palette that really worked for me. But when I saw this yarn, I knew this was going to be my Zweig sweater. So Suzanne is going to, in the future, dye a natural yarn with green and tan or brown speckles on it for the lace section, and I think that will go really nicely. But Thad and I almost came to blows over this yarn. Yeah, I love it. It's beautiful. So there's that. I have one more acquisition that I'll use to transition into my closing segment. This is a project tote. It is the Marauders map. It is an open project tote, so it does not zipper or snap or anything. By Yarntasia. There's her card ball band situation. It was inside one of the pockets in the bag. Why can't I hold it straight? There we go. Yeah, so this is Yarntasia. That's Jen Rice. This bag is pretty awesome. She had offered pre-orders once before, and I was like, oh, I wish I had gotten one. Wah. I didn't. But then she found more of the fabric and offered a second round of pre-orders, so I decided I had to have this bag. This is not actually going to be a knitting project bag. I'm going to use this, I have a knitting tote that I put all my project bags into, but this is going to become my going to the pottery studio bag. So it has a couple pockets inside, so I can put some goodies in there. But I figure I can put in this my lip balm, the wireless headphones I only use at the studio, bag balm for my hands because my skin gets really nasty from the wheel, from the clay on the wheel. And I really just think that this will be a nice tote, and the fact that it's cotton means that I can probably wash it and get the clay off the bottom. But yeah, this is going to be my going to the pottery studio tote. So I have been going to the studio pretty often. That's the end of the yarn stuff. But I have been going to the pottery studio very often in the last few weeks since I registered for my membership there. I go to Yonkers Pottery, so there will be a link in the down bar if you are interested, if you're local and you're interested in taking classes, or if you have pottery experience and you wanted to do a membership like I'm doing. It is an awesome little studio. If you are a member, you get a key. So you can come and go as you please. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I really feel like going and throwing a pot, I can go and throw at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know that I would want to be there all alone at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it's an option. So yeah, it's very flexible. I can be there as much or as little as I want. And yeah, I threw several yarn bowls, or what I thought would be yarn bowls. And then I realized that I didn't leave enough clay at the bottom to make them as bottom heavy as you really want a yarn bowl to be. I know that yarn bowls are typically weighted more on the bottom so that you don't tip them off the table when you're pulling your yarn out, so I need to remember to leave a thick bottom. I also want to make some kind of template for cutting out the loopy channel thing where the yarn comes through so that I can make them a little bit more consistent and even. So what I did was I threw 3 or 4 bowls. So you take the clay, you put it on the wheel, you do the ghost thing, and then you wait for them to dry a little bit, and then you trim off stuff on the bottom so that they sit flat, and then at that point you can carve them or decorate them as you see fit. So I went to do that, and I realized they would tip right off a table if you were knitting out of them. So I used them just as practice to cut out those channel shapes, and that's how I realized I really would like to have a template for it. So I'm going to do that, and then hopefully I will have some yarn bowls that I can start to sell, which will be pretty cool. I have right now 9 mugs that are sitting there waiting for handles and trimming. Probably go tomorrow or the next day and get them ready to actually be mugs and be fired. But yeah, I've been going down a lot, and I really enjoy it. It makes me very, very happy, which is good. So yeah, it's like self-care and side hustle and all in one. So there's that. I've decided that on a lot of my pots I'm going to be carving plants and flowers that are native to New York. So that I like to decorate by carving. So I'm going to start to do plants and flowers that are native to New York. I carved some bottle gentian. It's an herb that flowers. It's very pretty. Onto a pot, and I'm going to see how I like the glazing for it. We'll see. Anyway, it's going to be a thing that I do, and I'm going to try to sell them. I do still need to come up with a name for a potential Etsy shop or fair booth or anything, and I really haven't come up with one that I like. So we'll see. everything that I like is taken or gets shot down by people whose opinion I value. So, we'll see. I'll get there. I'll find something. I don't have enough stock yet to worry about it, so it is what it is. Anyway, I think that's all I have to talk about today. Thank you so much to my returning viewers for coming back and watching again. Thanks to anyone new who is checking me out for the first time. It was good to see you, meet you. I hope that you enjoyed what you saw. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel. You will need to subscribe if you want to enter that knit along. I also have a Facebook page that you can like for the podcast. I do try to post some updates there. There's not really a lot there now, but we'll see. I'll see if I can motivate myself to use it a little bit more. Join the Ravelry group. It's going to be easy to search. That again will be down in the down bar. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Bye guys!